Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar titled Reimagining Assessment, Integrating Durable Skills and Leveraging AI Technologies. I'm Carlo De Medio, your moderator for today. Before we start, a special thanks to the organizer, Carlos, for putting this event together and help us preparing everything. Allow me to briefly introduce myself. I'm an expert an experimental pedagogist with a background in engineering. I hold a PhD in artificial intelligence and have spent my career researching how AI can transform and enhance educational practice. In the last 6 years, I have transitioned fully into experimental pedagogy, having obtained my qualification from the National Scientific Habilitation. My work focuses on innovative technique methodologies and the development of critical thinking and digital skills in educational settings. It's a great pleasure to moderate this session today, and I'll guide you through the presentation that we have prepared for you today. We are excited to present an event rich in context and innovation. The focus of this event will be on new assessment methodologies, as I said before, in education, emphasizing durable skills and integration of artificial intelligence technologies for more personalized and accurate learning experience. The discussion will cover current advances in AI-based and non-AI-based assessment tools, ethical consideration, and future possibilities for seamlessly incorporating AI into educational framework. Our aim is to explore how this innovation can better prepare learners for the challenge of the modern world. Before we delve into the topic of the webinar, I'll see we have a lot of participants, so I'm happy of this. So let's take a moment to present the Eden Network, in particular the Eden App. The Eden App, the network of academics and professionals, is a committee of academics and professionals committed to promoting distance education in Europe and beyond. Our mission is to facilitate sharing the knowledge, experiences, the best practices among members to enhance distance teaching and learning. Through collaboration and networking, Eden App supports educational innovation, research, professional development, and the mission is to explore and develop effective assessment methods for the 21st century learners. This webinar fully aligned with the Eden App mission. So today we're discussing how to move beyond traditional assessments and embrace innovative methods to emphasize the development of durable skills. For example, critical thinking, problem solving, and obviously other skills. We also explore the potential of the artificial intelligence in these fields of research. And today's webinar will consist of 3 presentations, each followed by a little Q&A session. This format allows us to delve deeply into each topic and provides you, our audience, the opportunity to engage directly with our speaker. Now I will briefly present our fantastic panelists for today, and when they will present their work, I will present better each of them. So our first panelist will be Professor Lydia Liu, a globally recognized leader in assessment of critical skills and competencies. Our second panelist will be Professor Palita Endersinga, an expert in digital technology in education. And finally, we will see the presentation of Professor Antonella Poce, a leading figure in innovative teaching practice in higher education. Now let's start with our reimagining assessment. So I'm delighted to kick off this today's webinar within the presentation of Dr. Lydia Liu, Associate Vice President of Research. Dr. Liu is an intercontinentally renewed expert in assessing critical skills and competencies in higher education and the workforce. She has managed large-scale projects funded by government and private agencies in the USA and international countries, including India, China, and Korea. Dr. Liu has published over 100 peer-reviewed scholarly articles, research reports, book chapters, and in the fields of applied measurement, higher education, and scientific evaluation. Her research has appeared in prestigious journals such as Science, Natural Human Behavior, and Educational Researcher. She has received numerous accolades from her original insightful research on assessing learning outcomes in higher education and K-12 science assessments. So now, please let me a warm welcome to Dr. Liu for her presentation. I leave the floor to you. You can share your screen and start when you're ready. Please, Professor.
Thanks, Carlo, for the wonderful overview and the introduction. Hi,
Thank you,
everyone.
Professor.
I'm sharing my screen right now.
We can
Can you guys
perfectly see
it?
your presentation.
Great. Very nice to be here. I'm Lydia Liu. As Carlo introduced, I work for ETS, which is a nonprofit educational research and assessment organization. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of durable skills. And in our own work, we do a lot of initiatives and projects to think about the assessment of durable skills. We know that there is a lot of frameworks out there providing very thoughtful taxonomies, definitions, but really in order to implement the thinking of durable skills and to leverage them for academic and career purposes, we do need to come up with a reliable and valid way to quantify the durable skills and also provide insights. So that's the impetus for the topic of my seminar today, Skills for the Future, Assessment and Insights. I want to start by sharing the larger problems in the US entire K-12 education system that also has an impact on K-12, on higher ed, and on the future workforce. The first one is the graduation rate is very low in the US higher ed system, and coupled with very significant racial inequality. So around 50% of students graduated from four-year institutions on average in the time frame of 6 years in the US. And then for the Black students, only 40% of them graduate from four-year institutions within 6 years. And the numbers are much higher for Asian students and white students. And then at the same time, in the US, there are 71 million workers without a degree to show their skill sets. And the consequence of that is these individuals cannot get into high paying, sustainable jobs. And some of them have the right skill sets. They just do not have the traditionally required credentials to show that they can do the job. So how to lift these people, a significant portion of our workers, out of the dilemma they're facing today and move them into high-paying jobs. It's something that the skills-based assessment can help address. And then the last problem, and this is a problem even for people with a college degree or even graduate degree. 44% of workers' skills will be disrupted in the next 5 years. Given the technology advancements, AI, automation, a lot of the tasks are going to produce significant changes, and how to make sure we offer enough opportunities to help today's workers anticipate future needs and upskill and reskill is really critical. So I like this quote from Johnny Taylor. He's the president and CEO of SHRM, this Society of Human Resource Management. It's a large international HR organization. So Johnny said that the skills gap isn't big right now, it's massive. Between the disruption of the pandemic, ChatGPT, and we know very recently they released the GPT 4.0, and the wave of offshore jobs. The job market is evolving rapidly. So that's the back. So for ETS, we have launched an entire skills agenda covering K-12, higher ed, and workforce. We really believe that through measuring skills, we are able to power human progress, enabling humans to acquire skills, to demonstrate skills, verify skills, and then leverage skills for a better work and life. So look at some of the skills we work on. We have the foundational skills, which are like literacy, numeracy. These skills really provide the undergirding foundation for a lot of the higher order thinking skills, operational, executive functioning skills later. And then we have the technical skills. So things like math, algebra still matters a lot, and science, IT, English, all these technical skills still matter, but they are not enough. And then we have the durable skills. Um, excuse me, like what Carlo mentioned, critical thinking, collaboration. And these are really cross-cutting skills that will enable an individual to function effectively in a variety of settings. And the last category is the digital skills essential. Note that they will have overlap with some of the prior categories I just introduced, but I just want to call it out because in this digital era, it's so important to master the digital skills, to have a basic understanding of digital literacy or AI literacy, understanding cybersecurity, and all these skills working together will give us a holistic profile of our modern skills requirement. And I will be talking about the ETS work in 3 areas following the skills theme, K-12, higher ed, and the workforce. So in the K-12 space, our vision is to have 100% of all American high school students have the digital skills records to unlock upward mobility and access equitable opportunities. Why is this important? Because we want to include upward social mobility. We want students to have digital credentials that they can carry with them throughout the academic and the workforce journey, and also to come up with a mechanism to help students document their skills and experience from both in school and out of school activities. Right now, the activities are pretty much happening in school, and those are the ones that count, that are documented, and we want to create a more comprehensive system to recognize learning out of school. In the K-12 space, ETS just launched a very significant and strategic partnership with the Carnegie Foundation. There are 3 things that we're trying to address. The first one is really to expand what to measure, and this is to expand the landscape of the skills. Right now in American classrooms, and the measurement is still pretty much focused on academic disciplines without enough attention paid to the durable skills that are equally important. And also the second one is about revolutionizing how to measure, how do we design assessments that are authentic and personalized, and making sure that we can engage our learners through the assessment activities, and also leveraging modern technology to make the experience more fun for our learners and to respond to their unique social cultural background. Sometimes students become disengaged because they don't see themselves in the tasks. They don't see relevant life experience. So how do we leverage modern measurement science theories and technological advancements to make sure we offer assessment experience that are authentic and effective for our learners? And the last one is really about generating powerful insights. Many of the standardized assessments do not provide actionable insights for individuals who take them. We want to design an assessment system that offers insights from multiple stakeholders, including the policymakers, including the learners and the educators. With this, I just wanted to show you the skills that we picked from a very comprehensive overview of the portrait of graduate competencies from 22 US states. At the same time, we also consulted a number of international skills framework, like the one from OECD 2030 vision, and also from the World Economic Forum, their skills framework. And then we also looked at a number of US skills frameworks, like from like McKinsey and IBM. And then, so if you look at the wheel in the middle, we identified 11. And this isn't to say that these are the only skills that are important. In fact, there are many other skills that are equally important. But thinking about the prediction and how often they are called out across the frameworks, we want to pick these 11 as our starting point. So we won't be surprised by the selection. I hope we have communication, creativity, critical thinking, curiosity, digital literacy, and so on. And it's also important we think about what these skills predict. It's important they predict in life outcomes, career outcomes, academic outcomes, because as we think about the whole student concept, we want to make sure we provide a path for them to acquire and demonstrate skills that really matter in their life, and that goes beyond the academic, and it goes into workforce, it goes into life decisions. This really shows how we leverage research to guide prototyping and co-design with states, with educators and students. I will not walk the entire thing, but the idea is really to treat it as an iterative process. We leverage research to define those skills, like what do we mean by critical thinking? Because if you look at the different frameworks, you can find common elements, but you also see a lot of unique aspects. And we also want to leverage multimodal assessment. And traditionally, assessments happen in text, audio, but now we can leverage video, we can leverage sensory tools to capture data from a variety of ways. And then we can also integrate evidence from a number of different channels. Like we can use authentic direct assessment. We can analyze behavioral analytics, how students interact with the platform. We can capture the data and analyze and make inference about things that are not their question answering. If they're working on a math problem, we are able to make inference about skills beyond math, like collaboration or somebody's curiosity. And then leveraging AI tools to conduct a skills extraction. There has been efforts made to look at how AI algorithms can be designed to extract skills from a range of prior artifacts, like your resume, your vita, and your work experience and the course syllabus that you took. So there are many ways to extract our skills. And of course, we want to do that in a very ethical and fair way, and really with human in the loop, to make sure that any inference we make is valid. So this shows a brief example of the kind of assessment system we have on mind. The first circle, it really shows the type of experience we're trying to capture. For example, academic programs, apprenticeships, athletic programs, and community. And many students in high school have jobs. So that's also a big source of information when we think about student skills. And the graph in the middle shows an example of the digital transcript. So different from an academic transcript where you have your math, English, science. This shows your creativity, your critical thinking, your civic engagement, and behind each data point, you have multiple pieces of evidence supporting the assignment of somebody's critical thinking skills. This just shows a couple of frameworks that we drafted over the last 12 months or so, and I would be happy to share this document, A New Vision for Skills-Based Assessment, in the chat after my webinar. And when we think about the assessment design principles and what are the assessment considerations that we need to pay attention to when designing next generation assessment, this report has a pretty good overview on that. And then we developed a theory of change, like to make the long-term impact that we desire. What are the change elements that we have to consider, and how the change mechanisms should be identified and executed, and also who are the right stakeholders. And this document has a pretty good description of that. This is just an example of how we define some of the skill sets. I will not go into specific details, but here shows how we define perseverance, which really has two dimensions, the emotional resilience, the effortful persistence. Similarly, this is how we define critical thinking and digital literacy. With digital literacy, not only we want to look at students' ability to use digital tools to access, manage information, but also their ability to generate content and their ability to communicate. The digital citizenship and ethics is also an important aspect. So that's what we are doing in the K-12 space, and I will wrap up on what we're doing in the higher ed space. So we're adopting a getting to, through, and beyond model. So how to help students get to going through the admissions process, making sure they have effective and equitable way to demonstrate their skill sets. And once they are in college, how to make sure we offer enough support for skills development when they are graduating, making sure that we offer the career guidance and help them demonstrate skills with employers. What else? So here is what we are doing in the workforce space on the skills side. The workforce exploration is an entire ecosystem in and of itself. It really starts with career exploration. A lot of students do not have a clear sense of what type of work or career they would like to pursue. They also are very unclear about the opportunities in the job market. So having tools that support students' exploration is really a critical first step. And then we have designed durable skills assessments. And when we look at the behavioral competencies like interpersonal skills and personality traits, we also have assessment tools to capture that. We may not be able to change someone's personality, but we will be able to change people's behaviors, giving them the training assessment to help increase awareness. And so the skills training comes nicely with the assessments. And the last category is around cognitive digital skills. These skills are also critical that go with the entire package. So this is just an example of the kind of power skills or durable skills that we offer assessment for, like coachability, critical thinking, collaborative problem solving. So these are very short assessments we designed, and individuals can use the assessment and have a quick sense of where they stand, and also leverage the behavioral competency assessments to get an understanding on their approachability, their conscientiousness, which is the #1 predictor of job performance, and their ability to work with teams, and if they can stay emotionally stable under stressful situations. Yeah, so those are the how we define the durable and powerful skills for power skills for our assessments. This is a quick overview of the behavioral assessment. We have the dimensions that are covered. And one thing to add is, in a lot of the personality assessment, people use like a type questions like, oh, do you agree? If there are stakes attached to the assessments, people will always agree with the statements such as I'm honest or I'm always on top of things. So here we used a forced choice item type to provide two statements of equal social desirability, and then the candidate it's sort of forced to make a choice, and then we come up with many additional pairs of statements and to until finally we get a accurate estimate of where the respondent lands. So I wanted end by talking about the application of AI in durable skills assessment. AI is becoming really prevalent and widely applied in our own work. When I reflect on how it's being used in assessment, there are really 5 aspects. The first one is personalization. Personalization in both the assessment design and feedback. For example, we want to give learners choice in topics they want to work on, the context and the format, and how they receive feedback. And also thinking about the adaptability, what we could offer tasks that are better matched with the learner's academic ability. And I'm saying that from my boys' Chinese learning exercises. If they make a mistake, the system comes up with more questions around the mistakes that they made. And the second application is around automated content generation. So if we set parameters for certain assessment items, the algorithm will be able to change, for example, the names, the settings, the content, without changing the core academic ability that's being assessed. If it's math, it will be the same math level, but the context and format and other aspects might change. And then AI supported assessment design. As I mentioned earlier, we could leverage AI algorithm for skills extraction. We can capture behavioral analytics. We can add digital tools to support student assessment, and using multimodal assessments in the past. For example, when we assess oral communication, we only look at the verbal dimensions like choice of words, semantic structure, fluency, all of that. But now with technology, we can do eye tracking, we can do facial expression analysis, we can look at somebody's gesture and posture. So that greatly helps expand the dimensions of the skills we can measure. The fourth category is around automated scoring. We want to use more open-ended questions to get at deeper thinking and student reasoning. But we all know that in a real classroom setting, our teachers will struggle with scoring. grading a lot of open-ended questions, and students cannot get immediate feedback after working on those questions. Accurate and valid automated scoring will greatly help address that challenge. We can provide immediate scores to students so they know their performance on the tasks they just did. And automated scoring can also be used to power immediate feedback to provide the skills insights to our learners and to make the feedback also actionable. We can tell them that, which step they made a mistake or where their arguments need to be strengthened, and point them to specific instructional materials. So that's how we leverage the AI tools in skills assessment. I just wanted, given the time, I want to end here and turn it to Carlo for the question answering
Yeah,
session.
thank you very much. And I think we are going a little bit late, so I take note of the three questions for you, but we can put the Q&A session at the end of the webinar if it's not a problem for you. So I really want to thank Professor Liu for this really interesting presentation. And I only want to say that when I change my research field, I start researching on the automatic evaluation of critical thinking, and one of the first paper I read was one of yours. So you
Oh,
really
thank you
inspired
so much.
the beginning of my research. So I say thanks for now to Professor Liu, and I will present the second panelist for today, the Professor Palita Ederesinga. Please, oh yeah, now we can see you. Perfect. Professor is a leading expert in digital technologies. He is Associate Professor of Education at the School of Education in the University of Leicester, UK. His research interests also encompass the intercontinentalization of higher education. Currently, he is involved in a University of Leicester funded project exploring the potential of the large language models and like GPT, I think. And he also served as an associate editor for the journal Interactive Learning Environments and the thematic board member for the journal Educational Science. So please, the floor is yours, Professor. You can start with your presentation. And as I say before, we will put the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So please, you can start when you are ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and thank you very much for inviting me as well. So what I'm going to talk about is really, I'm going to take a slightly critical look at the potential of AI technologies. And then I'm going to present some ideas based on mainly from my reading and my own learning as well. So I'm going to focus on the potential of AI technologies from a more critical side as well to support learning and assessing students' learning. Okay, so I think one of the things, one of the issues that we are facing in universities and also in schools as well is the potential that generative AI technologies offer to learners. So this is a really interesting article written by somebody called Mike Sharples and another professor from Mexico. This came out in 2022 in Times Higher Education, one of their special issues. So what I think the title really says it all in a way. It's very easy for anybody to write almost anything using transformer models. What Mike Sharples is asking is what will be the impact of this on education? So I think this is one of the questions we need to really think about, and then how we can perhaps use AI-based technologies to support learning as well as assessment. So what they have done is Mike Sharples and Raphael, his co-author, they have written a book that came out in 2022, I think. The title of the book is Story Machines, How Computers Have Become Creative Writers. 2022. So what they have done is, in order to demonstrate the potential of generative AI models to create text, they have written one of the paragraphs of their book preface using ChatGPT early model, I think ChatGPT 2. And so there are two paragraphs here. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to guess which one was written using a computer or AI and which one was written by these two human beings. So if you can make a guess, if you can type on the chat box, then we can come back and see what your guesses are. Okay, so it's either one or two. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide because of the time limitation. So you still have time to either capture the screen and think about it, but anyway. So in their blog, in their newspaper item, what they said was students can generate an essay in seconds with a transformer model, and a teacher can assess it as well. And they have done it by themselves. But also they go on to say that just like a teacher can, student can write an essay, teachers can use AI models to grade them as well. So the problem is nobody is going to learn and nobody is going to gain anything. So I think this is one of the issues I think we need to really think about. In a recent article, John Gardner and his colleagues brought some ideas from the field of language testing and highlighted one of the things that a Page published in 1966, his predictions about 6 decades ago was that in the near future, computer can relieve teachers' burden of essay marking. And then there will be a time when teachers will be, or machine will be able to mark within several hours by the first bell of the next day. So I think that has actually come true, and it is actually used in language testing domain. But I think one of the things we can learn from their work is that looking at what the computer is looking for, or AI model is looking for when it is trying to grade students' work, and whether we can actually help students to develop these skills rather than really to lose them in their process. One of the quite a critical voice look at the generative AI models was somebody called Professor Emily Bender, a professor in the USA. She and her colleagues came up with the idea of stochastic parrots. So what it means is the way the transformative generative AI models are working is that they produce text. They have the ability to produce text, but they do it in a particular probability distribution model. So therefore, every time you ask the same question or slightly different variation of it, it will give you a different kind of answer, different kind of text. So that way, because of that behavior, we tend to think that what we are getting as an output is something that has been produced with some understanding. So then in Wikipedia, you can have a look at what it really means. So, sorry, going back. So stochastic parrots idea means that it's a metaphor used in machine learning to describe the theory that large language models generate plausible sentences, language. But it doesn't really mean that that production is done through a understanding. So I think this is what we need to think about. But on a side note, there are 4 authors in that article. 2 of them were sacked by Google for their writing of it or their involvement in the article. And but then later on, there were a lot of backlash against that as well. Okay, but then we can look at the potential of generative AI as well. So again, Barrett and Pack bringing the ideas of Chomsky, one of the linguistics professors, is that how generative AI tool works is actually similar to how humans learn to produce spoken word or written text. So we absorb a lot of things from our environment, and then we can produce plausible language. So I think it is another way of looking at what we are dealing with. This is quite a simple summary of examples of current popular uses of AI tools. So this we come across this quite a lot in higher education. Every time, quite often, when you receive essays for marking, you know that we use spell checkers and Grammarly for identifying and correcting grammar and certain errors and so on. And then we can see students are using machine translation programs, writing something from a native language to translate it to a target language. And then programs like tools like Quillbot and WordTwin, people use these to paraphrase, summarize, and change the tone of a paragraph in certain ways. But I think the issue or the difference is, the big difference is programs like ChatGPT and other to be able to generate whole essays. So the previous examples are helping, but in this case, it's really doing it for you. One of the ways we can look at is, I'm going to talk about 3 things in which we might be able to use AI to support students' writing skills and learning. So Barrett and Pack's research, they have analyzed different steps in the writing process. And then they have done their work, research in looking at how AI could be incorporated into this process, from planning to writing and providing feedback, revising and editing, and also evaluating and feedback. So evaluating and feedback is usually done by a teacher, but we could think about scenarios where this can be done from a generative AI model. So in that paper, they provide detailed examples, and they have an appendix as well with the prompts that they have used. So it's worth reading, I think. And then the other article I just want to highlight here is Swaychi and others, their colleagues, rethinking assessment methods. They have identified 5 issues and pointed out how we might address them. So these are the limitations of current assessment methods, if you like. It's very difficult for teachers to design and implement, especially things like essays. And then current assessment models are quite often discrete. So it takes a snapshot of the performance at a particular time. It doesn't actually help the teacher to evaluate the development. They are all uniform. I think previously we heard Lydia talk about the personalization. So uniformity is one of the things about the current methods of assessment. Difficult to adapt. And quite often we say they are inauthentic because they are not really, they don't reflect the actual practice, and quite often antiquated. So that means when learners go to professional work, what they have done as part of assessment might not be applicable. So just because of the time limitation, I'm going to move on to the next slide, but just quickly mention here what we mean by assessment, authentic assessment. In a way, it's a form of assessment in which students are asked to perform a real world-like task, and that can be applicable in a real world-like scenario. So this is a really helpful table to look at whether to see the assessment tasks that we are developing are really authentic or not. So these two authors from Deakin University have come up with a list of checklists, if you like, which we can use to think about, evaluate the assessment task, whether they are authentic or not. And then Soichi and their colleagues look at how, looking at the 5 issues of assessment, issues with assessment, how we can change it in order to incorporate AI-based methods to make the assessment more modern and more feasible and so on. So for example, from honors to feasible, so using fully or partially automate parts of the traditional assessment practices. From discrete to continuous, so here using some things like video games, and so that students can be assessed continuously, and the data that collects can be used to assess students' learning. So, so it's worth, I think, to look at the 5 approaches from changing from the old methods to something new. But there are challenges of implementing these assessment methods as well. So that's my number 2 second point. I think this will be something that we can think about in a more wider scale, rethinking the learner or the learning model. So in a more recent book came out just a few months ago by 2 UK academics. One is Rupert Wegereth. So that's the book. I bought it recently. He and his colleague Louis Major, they were developing a more what they call dialogic theory of educational technology. So in which what they say is tools like ChatGPT can be used as a dialogic partner. So that means we don't really need to use it for writing text, but more like a conversational partner. And in fact, it kind of follows up from early work done by Seymour Papet's view of learning as constructionism. It's a way of thinking about a computer as a tool to think with. And also, in a way, it can be considered as an addition to educational tutoring machines as well. It's helping the learning process a little bit more personal, and the learner can be in control here. And also finally, now we have opportunities to use AI-based technologies to really operationalize, work with, or apply work like Lorilard's conversational framework and 6 types of learning. So we can really use these methods or think about learning from a different perspective. So I think I'm going to finish here now, and it might be, this is my last slide. It would be worth following up with JISC AI in education and joining JISC's mail server. And then somebody in that mail server posted just this morning one of the projects they are doing at the Open University. We are developing, they are testing 55 different assessment methods to see which one is vulnerable for generative AI and which can be enhanced using generative AI models. Okay, and this is my list of references, and thank you very much for listening to me. I'm going to hand back to
Thank you very much,
Carlo.
Professor. Your Your presentation was really inspiring, and I totally agree with a lot of assertion that you do. I research for a lot of time, and I think exactly as you say, the AI must be an instrument that learners must have, but there is a tool. It's not something that can write for us and think for us. I try to set up a little research in order to try to demonstrate that it's not possible to demonstrate that an AI can critical thinking, but this is only initially set up, so I don't want to go over. We will conduct the Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so I say thank you for the moment to you, Professor, and I will introduce the last panelist, the Professor Antonella Poce. She's a prominent figure in the field of innovative teaching practice in higher education. Her research focus on didactic innovation, museum education, teacher training, assessment, and one of the most promising research field is the automatic evaluation of the critical thinking. She has held prestigious position at various Italian universities, and he has participated in national and international research projects. Professor Poce is the author of numerous scholarly publications, and he has presented her work at national and international conferences. Now, let's welcome Professor
Thank you so
Poce
much
for her presentation.
Thank you for your introduction, Carlo, and actually thank you for putting together such an incredible panel. So, of course,
No, thank you for the help.
not considering
Without you,
myself.
all of this was not possible. So thank you.
Because no, they are really inspiring, as you said. Both the presentations were very inspiring, and I can tell that they are actually the basis, the reference framework from where our research started, and the contribution I'm giving you today is related exactly to using AI for critical thinking assessment. We will talk a little bit because the research is, of course, big, and we don't have the time to go through every detail, but I'll try to give you a general overview of what is the introduction and state of the art, the research objectives and methodology, and the results, and a little bit of discussion. I won't, repeat things that were already mentioned in both Lydia and Paul's presentations. We know very well from a long time literature that critical thinking is really important and relevant for the development of society, for the growth of our individuals. And so there's an important attention that should be paid to the identification, the definition of critical thinking, and how to support and enhance critical thinking in the learners. Of course, technology can play a role, as Pal actually underlined in his presentation. And according to the different studies that we have gone through, this combination of focus on critical thinking and the use of technology in the idea of finding new ways to assess these kind of skills, as Lydia was mentioning and underlining, we need different kind of skills in the evolving society we have been living in. And in order to support, to enhance those skills, critical thinking is one of those, we need to find different ways of assessing these kind of skills, because to enhance them, you need to assess the skill in this case, but the element that you want to support. So we thought that taking into consideration the impact that writing activities could have on the development of critical thinking, especially collaborative and creative writing activities, the idea of supporting also peer-to-peer assessment that proved to be important, interesting in the development of certain skills, were some of the points that we took into consideration in our research. Of course, as both Lydia and Paul said, there are, certain ways of assessing certain skills. So, of course, open-ended tasks are relevant, but could also be very challenging because, of course, the assessment of open-ended questions can be very, very difficult for different reasons. We also refer to some studies that highlighted that blended learning, combining face-to-face and online teaching, proved to be useful, again, to develop reflective thinking and discussion. So the idea of combining different tools, multiple choice and open-ended, supported our idea of facing certain problems of reliability and authenticity. Many, issues that were already said in the previous presentations. So we thought of developing a university module designed to assess critical thinking levels through creative writing activities. The students were engaged in critical analysis of literary texts that were joined to figurative arts, paintings, images, of course, images of figurative arts. And this kind of development included both face-to-face classes and interactions on a Moodle platform, where, of course, we carried out the blended learning experiences. So the main aim was to assess the levels of critical thinking and the usability of AI in assessing students' critical thinking skills employed in collaborative writing activities. So I'm not going through, of course, the details of the tools we use or of the items we used. If you are interested, of course, you can contact both me and Carlo and have a more detailed view of what we did. Anyway, with the data that I'm going to introduce you are referred to 123 first-year students from the Educational Research Methodology module, and they participated in the activities organized in 17 groups. So we collected the data through collaborative analysis of the texts that were produced, collaborative and creative writing, and self-reflection questionnaires. How did we carry the analysis? We carried a thematic analysis of qualitative data collected through an online questionnaire that was carried out to understand student groups dynamics. This was one of the focus that we wanted to to carry out. And then critical thinking assessment was carried out through 2 different grids based on the collaborative texts that were produced. Critical thinking levels assessment was carried out automatically through, a prototype that we have been working on for some years now. It is a true challenge. And so the idea was to identify different features. So the focus was on different macro indicators like use of the language, argumentation, relevance, importance, critical elaboration, and novelty. And these grids, these evaluation tools, assessment tools have been tested in different researches, of course, using human evaluators, human assessors. And in this case, instead, we used the automatic prototype. What did we found out? We found out that there's overall that there's a slight decrease during the second test, but we identified a significant improvement overall at the end of the experience. So anyway, the experience proved to be successful from a certain point of view. The other interesting point is that the best ratings were obtained in language use, relevance, and argumentation. You can see that there's a title connected to every macro indicator, and the title is, and the color is related to the title of the narrative, the storytelling linked to the work of art that was part of this, exercise, critical thinking exercise. The prototype showed potential in assessing critical thinking levels, particularly in indicators like use of the language, relevance, and argumentation. And so this is supporting from a certain point of view. The analysis highlighted the need to add characterizing features to improve the intelligent model for critical thinking assessment. Of course, we need to develop more the macro indicators and the way the prototype treats the texts. Final comments to describe this experiment are related to the fact that critical thinking is absolutely crucial in higher education, as we all understand, and can be fostered through collaborative writing activities. Of course, the idea of using cultural references and of connecting arts and literature, of making students reflect on certain specific ways of elaborating their thoughts is relevant, is important, is something that we need to investigate more as an enhancer of critical thinking skills. Future research, of course, could involve a comparison of assessment results from human and AI evaluators. We already did something, and we already have some results, even if I'm not presenting them today because it would involve more time and a more specific discussion. But we need, of course, to involve larger number of students from different subject areas, thing that we are going to do in the next future, thanks to the work we have been carrying out in a research funded by the Italian government and related to the use of technology to support certain cross-sectional skills. So I thank you so much for the attention. I'm truly sorry if I was very quick, but Carlo De Medio participated and took part in the research and is well aware of how the prototype works, can also answer the questions. But I really want to thank the previous speakers who were absolutely incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. And I obviously finding perfect your presentation. We work together in this research, and it's really interesting the results. As the professor say, we already try to compare the human evaluation with automatic evaluation. This is a real challenge, but we are getting some really promising results. So thank you, Professor. And now we can start with our Q&A session. So I please ask our panelists to get on the virtual stage, opening the webcam. Here we are, perfect. And I'll start reporting some questions that I find in the chat. The first is for all the presenters, so feel free to discuss about this topic. Are you generally more hopeful or pessimistic about where this OLAI development will lead regarding students' acquisition of writing skills? What's your assessment so far? Are we doomed, or AI will dramatically enhance students' writing progress? I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I can break.
Yeah. I put in the chat I report in the chat the question for all our audience. So I don't know.
Have my mic. I wanted to break the ice, taking into consideration that the best expert here is Lydia, so I'll leave the floor to her in particular. But in my view, I don't think AI will be actually a limitation. It should be a great support. The most important thing is that we teach students how to use AI. So as I always say, we should support a critical use of technology in education, or in our as in our everyday life. This is the only way we could face certain risks that are there, of course. So if we teach how to use AI, they could improve their writing skills, actually, in my view. I don't know what the others think about this.
I agree. I think in general, the AI tools, especially the ones who are tested with efficacy, are designed to help students learn, not to impede their learning. But of course, that there are some conditions for that to happen. Like one observation I have is when my kids learn writing using AI tools, they tend to think that they no longer need to learn spelling, because once they type the first few letters, the program will complete the spelling for them. And there are other similar examples. I think as educators and researchers, we have to be very clear about the boundaries of AI. What are the benefits? What are the potential limitations? And where do human responsibilities start? And not to have students 100% rely on AI, but AI is a tool. It could be very powerful to assist kids' learning.
Absolutely agree. Yes.
Fantastic.
don't know
Yeah,
if
I totally agree. The key is the AI is a tool. Must be a tool. I don't know if Professor Palita wants to say something about this argument.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think I think we can look at it from different angles, if you like. But when you are looking at literature, in the literature, people say that so we don't use calculators anymore because we offload that bit of calculation to a machine, and we can do other higher level of mathematics and so on. But I think the issue is what level of skills students need to be able to have already in order to be able to use AI-based tool. So that's one way of thinking about it. I think another way of thinking about it is the skills, the writing skills bit itself. Because if in a profession, if you're working somewhere, people are already using various tools. So maybe we probably need to think about what kind of skills that we need to acquire in order to be able to use a tool effectively. So I think here comes the idea of prompt engineering. So that means if we can have certain level of kind of skills in order to get an AI to do the work we want to do, I think that, so I think it's a kind of a complex area. I think the research like what Antenna is doing is really important to shed light on this.
Perfect. Thank you, Professor. And I think we can go over with a question direct to you, Professor Palita. One of the questions to be addressed in the Edengrass conference is what is required to help foster studies and integration in the complex digital learning ecosystem. Can the prof provide his perspective on this briefly? I don't know if you can see the chat.
Yes, I had a look at it, and actually I then had a look at the Eden themes as well. So nestedness is one of the themes. I think it's really, I mean, I'm talking from a more UK perspective. There are universities work in different cultures. So you have different cultures, different categories of universities and so on. So the connectivity, collaboration, and I think a lot of those things are actually down to the leadership of the universities. And there are various types of collaboration that are happening at the disciplinary level, but also through various research activities. In my slide, last slide, I posted a link to JISC mail server. I'm in the server in the list. So I can see a lot of collaborations that are going on at the academic individual member level. So that kind of things are happening, but I think it's a little bit challenging thing to do because of the different cultural context in which different universities or higher education institutions work. But very interesting question.
Thank you. So we can go to the next question for Professor Poche. What technological advancements would you recommend for a more robust blended, hybrid, and online learning?
This is again a very good question in the sense that it is what we all ask ourselves, in the sense that again there's a great need for training for teachers and lecturers, university teachers, and so on and so forth, training in using tools. As we all know, there are many different tools available, also open tools that can be very much useful and helpful to support blended learning. What makes the difference, in my view, besides the technological tools, because Carlo can tell you that there are many platforms that are, absolutely manageable and helpful and also flexible to have different plugins in order to support different objectives. And this goes without saying. The most important thing is the planning, the design, the methodology. So what we consider useful to reach certain objectives. Taking into consideration blended learning, that proved to be the most effective way of teaching and learning through technology. Of course, it is important, and this community, the Eden community, is based on the use of technology for education. So of course it is absolutely important and relevant. But we are humans. We know what we went through over the pandemic. So a certain balance between distant and face-to-face meetings is important. The design is at the basis. So according to the design and the objectives that each lecturer, each teacher has, according to his topic, to the topics, to the contents, and so on and so forth, the design can be different, and the technology actually can respond very well to this objective, exactly because there are many different ways of making these platforms very flexible, and also with low costs. I mean, with not high costs. I think this is something that Carlo can support. But I also would like to know more about this from Lydia and Pal.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks to you, really. Thanks a lot to Carlo, organizer, and to our wonderful guests.
I have a set of questions for Professor Liu. First of all, how did you determine what constitute durable skills? And did you conduct an expanded skills gap analysis to arrive to your conclusion? And is there a subtext in your focus on age of Black students' grades?
Thanks. Those are great questions. As I promised in my presentation, I want to share the framework we published last year. And there is a lot of information about how we come to determine the skills that we want to focus on, and also the assessment principles. In general, the term durable skills was actually coined by America Succeeds. They have, let me put their website here. They are a nonprofit skills organization. They do a lot of work in the employment sector. So they come up with this great name, and they have a framework that describes the skills and sub-dimensions and competencies. As you are aware, there is a lot of terms for the same kind of skills that we're talking about. To me, what really makes the real difference is an operational definition. If we were to design assessment, say for collaboration or collaborative problem solving, what are the sub-dimensions we are covering? Can we offer sub-scores to support those dimensions? Because with that type of information, we are able to offer feedback to students on the school reports and point them to specific ways that they are able to improve on their both collaboration and problem solving. So having that operational definition is really critical. And we have done a very comprehensive overview of the frameworks, almost all the influential frameworks that are out there to identify synergies and also looking at the gaps. And what we realize is, although people use the same terms, they may not be 100% in agreement with each other in terms of what really constitutes critical thinking, what constitutes creativity, and even less information can be found on what are the assessments that can be used to capture all the key dimensions. Critical thinking is probably better. There are more assessments when it comes to digital literacy or creativity. Very few assessment tools exist. So to identify where the gaps are between definitions, frameworks, and assessment is a big part of what we do. Let me see the second part of the question. I believe there is another part. Yeah, so the gap and the subtext focus on percentage of Black student graduates. Oh, that was an example used to show the inequities in the number of in the percentage of students graduated, and you could say other kind of inequities like across gender groups and also low income versus high income groups. So that was just an example to show that as we design new assessments and new tools, we want to help students from historically disadvantaged backgrounds and making sure that the offering benefits students equally.
Thank you, Professor. I think we have two questions direct to all the panelists. The first, do you think there are any differences in the use of AI in learning for students with impairments? Personally, I don't think so, but I work with a researcher at a prototype in order to use the AI for the diagnostic of some disease. But I don't think in learning process can be some differences in the use of the AI. I don't know if our panelists are think the same as me. Maybe want to say something different. Please, Professor.
I just wanted to comment that in our own work, we pay a lot of attention to specific learner needs, student needs. For example, when we design assessments, we create accessible forms for students with certain disabilities. So when it comes to AI application, I think we ought to consider the different needs the different student groups require. So it's important as we design the tool, whether it's learning or assessment, leveraging AI, making sure that all student groups can leverage the full benefits of the offerings. And that would require us in doing prototyping, pilot testing, field testing, include students who we intend to serve and making sure that their unique needs are considered. So the product designed, it's not just for certain students, not all of the students that we want to serve.
Sir Palita, you want to say something more? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you just pointed out there. I think, I mean, the universities, I think, are, I mean, our university here, we have a accessibility center. So they usually generally use technologies to assist students who require special educational needs. So I think the development of AI could be beneficial, but I think these need to be kind of looked at specifically. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, I don't know if we have Any other questions? Maybe one on the AI Gen tools. In the chat, they are asking if the tools are used by students themselves, for instance, write essay, and how this could actually constitute an hindrance to their skills development. I was wondering whether are there any AI tools that are able to detect if an essay was not written by a human. I know about some program that do this, but there is a lot of problem with the false positive. Maybe I don't know if a professor knows something more than me.
Yeah, I think this is really something we discuss quite a lot. I think one of the issues is, as you were saying, Carlo, it's whether these kind of tools can actually recognize. I think the problem is even if somebody develops a tool to recognize essays or output written by a machine, then there will be another tool that will be developed to evade it. So I think it's a more like arms race in the end. So I think a better approach might be to change in the assessment method that will partly incorporate the use of AI, but also that are not vulnerable to an AI system. So I think that will be a longer term plan, I think. And the other thing is, I mean, a university like here, even if there are tools, we are not really allowed to use them because because of the privacy reasons and so on. So there are cultural issues as well. In order that kind of it's a complex issue, I think. Changing the assessments to incorporate AI systems and also using AI to help learning, help perhaps writing, but also doing the things that the AIs cannot do would be, I think, one way forward, which will take a long time, I think.
Yes.
Carlo, you're on mute.
Sorry. Carlo? I don't know what happened. It is interesting. So I'll take the lead because I don't know what happened. Maybe something to the connection.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Yeah, I had some issue with the connection. Now you hear me again.
Okay. Okay, it was a problem of connection. I don't know if you wanted to add something.
I think we.
I don't know if there are other questions, but I think
No, I think we answered all the questions
all
in
the
the chat,
questions.
so we can say thanks to all our fantastic panelists, and we are really glad that you stay with us today, and I hope that we can organize other webinar, other events with you in future. So really, thank you, Professor Liu, Professor Edrisinga, and Professor Poche. And before we close this webinar, I want to give you some information about the Eden Next event. I hope that you are seeing my screen. First of all, in June will be the Eden conference in Graz. You are all invited, and scanning the QR code in the bottom of the presentation, you can register right now. The next event is the Eden Research Workshop that will be in Timisoara in October. You can reach the call for paper using the QR code in the same part of the screen of the previous slide. And if you are interested in more digital innovation in education, join the European Digital Education Hub using this QR code. And finally, I will promote two webinars, AI for Inclusive Education in June, and you can find a registration form in the QR code in the right, and the AI integration in education, critical reflections and future direction, that will be in June, in the second part of June. And as before, you can reach the registration form using the QR code. So I think we can close the presentation. I want to say thank you again to all our guests and to all our audience. And good night, and hope to see you soon in Graz annual conference, maybe online or in presence. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thank
having us.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you very
everyone.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much, Lydia
you.
and Paul. Thank
We
you
really
so much.
have a
So
really wonderful
Pleasure.
webinar.
to see you both.
We have really good numbers, so I'm really happy, but I'm really proud of this because the panelists are really the best of the sector. So really thank to you.
Proud.
Thanks so
We are
much.
all
I'm
proud.
really proud of
Thank
this.
you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye
Thank
bye.